If I can only hit a note that high. Well, it wasn't really high. But hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Fun with Flame. I'm your host, Danieltheflame. And if you know the rendition of whatever the fuck I was doing, if it sounded similar to something you've heard before, then you, my friend, have seen Fooly Cooly. Because that's the song that everyone remembers from Fooly Cooly. Right on Shooting Star. Right on Shooting Star. Yeah. Right on Shooting Star. God. I hate that I love that song. Because I didn't plan on liking that song. I don't think anyone planned on liking that song. Like, they heard it and it was okay, you know, as far as J-Rock goes and whatnot, but after what Adult Swim did to you when your parents weren't around, that song just haunts people to this day. Hey, what the fuck you talking about, man? Well, it's all a part of what I wanted to talk about today. Fooly Cooly recently had two other seasons, basically continuations of their story. You know, one was about a girl with headphones and cat ears. The other one was about a group of girls who were trying to spend their last school days together. Now, both things were 6 episodes long, and they were continuing the Fooly Cooly story that basically got made in like the fucking early 2000s, from such a long bygone era of Adult Swim when they really didn't have that much anime that they were playing, or things that essentially, like, basically when people were just getting into anime. So Fooly Cooly was one of those shows that was like, everyone knew about it, everyone talked about it, they watched it all the time. The issue that I have is that after they made those 2 continuations to the Fooly Cooly story, the long-awaited continuations to the Fooly Cooly story, the highly promoted continuations to the Fooly Cooly story, and they played them and aired them on Adult Swim, and then it was over, nobody said shit. Nobody talked about those things. I don't know why. I wondered why did no one say anything about Fooly Cooly. Fooly Cooly is a beloved anime. I love Fooly Cooly. I've seen all 6 episodes God knows how many times. And I think I have, with that love for Fooly Cooly and growing up knowing damn near, you know, everything about it before they introduced those new episodes, I think that qualifies me to talk about why the newer Fooly Cooly, which came out, crashed and fucking burned like a goddamn spaceship made in the Stone Age? Yeah, spaceship made in the Stone Age, yeah, when monkeys threw rocks at the moon and, you know, it crashed and burned because it landed in the lava that was everywhere. Pangea. Well, first I gotta to understand why the new Fooly Cooly was so horrible in relation to the original Fooly Cooly. It actually, there's a major thing that basically when they remade this series that they did not take into account. It's something that they didn't take into account. It wasn't the major flaw of the anime itself, but something that they really didn't take into account, because when they remade this anime, like, they did the English voice actors dubs first. That's how much they knew that Americans wanted to see a new Fooly Cooly. You can easily tell Fooly Cooly is not something that Japan was all like, oh, we need to see more. No. Fooly Cooly was, that was a big American thing. Like, we loved Fooly Cooly. It was awesome. It was hilarious. Hell, there's even a part in the original Fooly Cooly where the Naota looks like Kenny from South Park. It was meant for Americans. And that was the major oversight that Japan didn't take into account when they made this new series. And that is, Fooly Cooly was not an anime that people basically, that became beloved by choice. Fooly Cooly became beloved by force. What does that mean? If you know what the hell I'm talking about, then you immediately get it if you think about how you watch Fooly Cooly. Adult Swim used to play Fooly Cooly all the time. They would literally go weekends playing back-to-back Fooly Cooly non-stop. If you missed an episode, and you wait a couple of hours and it was gonna pop up again. That's how ridiculous it got. And they did this shit for years. It would get to the point where sometimes just on the anniversary when they first got Fooly Cooly, they would just spend that entire weekend replaying all the Fooly Cooly episodes, because that's apparently what Adult Swim said people wanted to see. If it was getting to the point where they were running out of show ideas, or they didn't have the new episodes or something, and they just wanted to push it back a week for something special or whatnot, they played Fooly Cooly. When it got to the point where they were running out of anime to play, so it's like, hey, we would have an anime block of just playing all this stuff or whatnot. And it's like, okay, these are going to be all new anime and whatnot. We don't want to do reruns of some of the older stuff or some of the newer stuff because it just came out. And they play Fooly Cooly. It became a goddamn obsession. That's what I meant when I said the ending song, Ride on Shooting Stars, became I Hate That I Love It, because it became forced on me. Like, you didn't choose Fooly Cooly. Fooly Cooly chose you. That's how that worked. And that's what generally went down to anyone who was privy to Adult Swim during that time, when they just constantly played Fooly Cooly all over again. Hell, you learned the main characters' names, you knew everything that was going on, the storyline was simple, it was short and sweet, everything was just brought to your attention in these 6-episode show, and it was fucking amazing. And it's not like it was a bad show that you just had to rewatch over and over again. No, it was bad because it was a good show that you had to rewatch over and over again. So, with that being said, basically all of the greatness of Fooly Cooly was constantly pumped in people's heads over and over and over again. Years go by after years, even to this day when Adult Swim still would play reruns of the original Fooly Cooly. Then out of nowhere they're announcing, we're gonna continue Fooly Cooly. Holy shit. In the wake of Japan, for whatever reason, constantly going on a fucking, nostalgia cruise, where they just keep revamping and redoing everything. Hell, they did Code Geass, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto's getting Boruto, and that's actually what's doing Power. So all this shit was getting made, and it's like, yeah, people want new stuff, but at the same time, they still give us money if they're seeing the old shit as well. Who knew? So, Japan used America's love for Fooly Cooly, which they didn't know was a forced love for Fooly Cooly, to their advantage to get more money by doing more Fooly Cooly. And honestly, nothing about this was bad. Not one bit of this was a bad idea at all. Even when they explained the stories of what they were going to focus on, they were like, both new things are going to focus on girls. They're going to bring back Haruko, but it's going to focus on these girls and what they had going on, and everyone was hopeful because it was like, cool, I love it, that's great. I don't care what the story's going to be about, because even though you're telling me this, I know Fooly Cooly, and so you might say it's about this girl, but some shit don't go down because that's Fooly Cooly. And so it was all well and good, and it's like, it's going to be years after everything happened from the first one. It's going to be fine, it's going to be fantastic, great. Here's where the actual major flaw came into play. I hate to say this, but the Japanese have absolutely no fucking clue how to write women. They don't. From what I can tell, from like they're bad at writing for women. They're bad at writing female characters, as well as bad as writing definite endings. That's just like how I see from their artwork in comparison to other things, where it's like, you know, it's great build up, and then when it gets to the end, because of their struggles with production, their struggles with pushing out deadlines and things like that, a lot of their stuff comes out rushed. No fault on their own, but that's just how their system works, and it suffers for it. Fooly Cooly, on the other hand, the main definite flaw that Fooly Cooly had with their interpretation and their anticipation of it hitting America and everyone fucking loving it is that the people who loved Fooly Cooly when they were forced to watch Fooly Cooly at the time were dudes. Guys, the predominant male fandom of anime was watching Adult Swim at those late hours, constantly seeing Fooly Cooly all over again, and willing to sit and watch Fooly Cooly all over again. Female anime fans are big in their own right. They have their own motion and their own fandom and things like that. And yes, there are a lot of them. But considering when Fooly Cooly came out and the demographic that it hit and that it was targeted to, you would expect them to recognize that, yeah, this is kind of a male-heavy thing that you're going to want to do when you continue on Fooly Cooly. Now, again, this isn't its major flaw. This is just a flaw. The major flaw was that at no point in time in both of the damn Fooly Cooly stories, without their weird wackiness and their goofiness and the shit to try and encompass everything that Fooly Cooly was about when you saw it back in the day, all of that shit pushed to the side. They, at no point in time, bring up Naoto, the main character from Fooly Cooly, the original. That was a sin. It was a sin against God, realistically, because it completely derived everything else that came out in Fooly Cooly from its fucking core just to become complete and utter bullshit. Because for some reason, someone told them it wasn't about the characters, it was about the journey. It was about self-discovery, because that's what Naoto went through. You made this anime for nostalgia bait. Nostalgia bait has to be done in a certain way in order for that fish to bite. And you did not do that correctly. You threw that bait out there and no one freaking bit at it, because it wasn't nostalgia bait. That was you taking the name Fooly Cooly, adding wackiness to these random new characters who no one gave a shit about, and then you slapped on the name Fooly Cooly, you added random wackiness, you gave Haruko Haruka as a character that was a recurring character, because she's supposed to be something that happens, or is a person that's constantly seen with these characters, and then you decided to go with the story of Naoto and his self-discovery and acceptance of growing up and moving on, and you decided to incorporate that with these other characters. A complete and utter fucking failure, because that's not what anyone who looked at the first 6 episodes of Fooly Cooly wanted. Why the fuck would we want that? That was not the reason we loved Fooly Cooly. It wasn't because of the self-discovery or the underlying story. That's like liking Evangelion because Shinji's going through his own reason of understanding himself. It's about the giant robots. It was always about the giant robot. No one gave a shit about his emo weirdness. It was about the damn giant robots. And if you can't understand that, you're fucking stupid. So with Fooly Cooly, it was about the fact that they introduced all these major story plot points by the 6 episodes, and it became this epic story. You introduced Animus, a fucking pirate king that was in space. Haruko, who was in love with this pirate king, but at the same time wanted his energy after he was captured by Medical Mechanica, and then they didn't know how to break him out, and so she was using people's heads that was gateways to Medical Mechanica's prison that was constantly trying to get him out. Kanji was one of the vessels that was able to transmit Animus power, and then Naota got the power at the very end, and then she had to go on because he released him into space, and then he was gone, and then Haruko went after him, and then Naota was left behind to live his own fucking life. You would continue the story with Naota. You would bring up the Pirate King. You would have Haruko return back. This would involve an older Naota now having to deal with other bullshit and another form of self-discovery, because just because he went through one growing phase in his life doesn't mean you can't have other. One trial in your life does not make you an adult. Multiple trials in life makes you an adult. There's constant shit that you have to deal with as you're growing up. It's not just one thing and then you're grown. Fuck you. So by making it steer away from Naota, and you try to do that same stupid ass high school discovery, middle school bullshit with these other characters, it fell flat on its ass. I don't know these characters. This same self-discovery does not hit home with me. One, all of them are females. Most of the people who are a fan of Fooly Cooly are males, so it's not gonna register correctly. It's not gonna register at all. Two, all these characters have absolutely nothing to do with the previous established storyline from Fooly Cooly. You just have these giant robots appearing out of people's heads, and then because they're stressed or whatever, the robots attack for different reasons and whatnot. Again, that's something that happened in the original, but I don't know or care about these characters who you just thrust upon me. Only one I know is Haruko, and she's not doing anything. You have her as a background character being this kind of weird deity thing that's just like talking about stuff and saying, you guys need to grow up, or you don't want to grow up. And it's like, I don't give a fuck. I really don't give a fuck. And that's what they did. Now, the sickening part is that they made this anime and they thought it was going to be a smash hit. All the voice actors was freaking talking about it. They even got the chick who did Haruko. I think she quit being a voice actor, and then they got her to come back just to reprise her role as Haruko. You know, everyone was like, they were showing like interviews and whatnot all over Adult Swim and things like that, and it was like, yeah, we're real happy to be back. They got freaking the guy who does the voice of Spike, they got him to come back, and he was like, yeah, you know, I'm glad to be back. I did Fooly Cooly back in the older days, and now I'm coming back, and it's like, hey, this is gonna be great. And then they played it, and it was like, this is a piece of shit. And everyone immediately knew it. And so they started adding or talking about things that were fucking relevant. You know, the album is gonna be done, like all the music is gonna be done by the Pillows, because that's what everyone loved. Again, the music of Fooly Cooly was forced upon people. It was not something where it was like, you know, I generally really like these songs. Not really. Like, I can't really say personally, because I can't remember, but my first interpretation when hearing the music from Fooly Cooly, I didn't really care for it. But after so many years of it rambling in my head over and over and over again, yeah, I like it now. I like the songs that were on Fooly Cooly. I'm not going out of my way to look up shit that the Pillows did, but I like the songs that were on Fooly Cooly. And so you stating that you're going to get Pillows doing new songs for the new Fooly Cooly, that's okay. I mean, I don't care, but because that's not what makes up Fooly Cooly. It's just good music. You literally could add any other type of catchy J-pop, J-rock songs, and as long as it fits within the scene or within the confines of the anime, ain't no one's gonna bat a fucking eye. And it's like, yes, music does make up a big deal in terms of anime, you know, like with movies or anything else, and interpretation of how it delivers a scene, and how powerful and impactful something can be. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be done by the Pillows. It could just be done by anyone who's able to catch on to exactly what's happening, give you the same sound or the same emotional impact that they did from the original Fooly Cooly, and there you go. What was insulting was that when you watch the animes, about 3 or 4 songs were actually new songs by the Pillows. Everything else was just rehashes of the songs that they used from the original. So I guess that was really the closest thing you were going to get to nostalgia bait that they were using. Because if that was the case, why did they even use new songs? Because none of the new songs even hit home for me, because I'm fucking remembering. But I remember the older songs because, again, they were played over and over and over again on Adult Swim. So that's why that worked. I was able to identify and recognize it. Yeah, that's that song. That's Blue Driver. Yeah, I know that. I have that song. But that was it. And then when the endings came on, I was like, this isn't Ride On Shooting Star. I don't give a fuck. I don't see no damn moped and stop motion constantly traveling around Japan. I don't care. I don't care. And that's basically what they broke down those two shows into. It became something where unanimously people were just screaming out, they don't care. This makes no sense. Why did you make this? And it just burned. It just fucking burned. It didn't even lift to like 10 feet out the air. It just immediately was shot down with a resounding, this isn't what I love. This isn't Fooly Cooly. This is just weird shit that has no bearing and makes no sense. You made both things about girls, which that's a hard demographic to hit in anime, and you somehow, and like you decided to hit that, you decided to try to hit that demographic, and you still fucking miss, which is really retarded. So it was like your idea was, hey, this time we're gonna focus on females. Okay. But at the same time, it would have been a lot better if these females were connected or had some type of correlation to Naota. If it was stated that they were related to Naota, that would have been fantastic. If you would have had them say that, it would have been fantastic. That would have been a slight promising aspect of the new Fooly Cooly. But you didn't even do that. They were literally random people. So then it really didn't matter. And then you also neglected the overall storyline about what was going on with Metal Mechanica. The Pirate King, damn, I said his name and now I fucking forgot it. What's his name? Animisc? Was it Animisc? Damn, I forgot. How did I forget? I just said it. But yeah, with the Pirate King, with Haruka, the dude with the eyebrows, all of these factors that you could have brought back in, bringing up, you know, how the Irons want to iron out the wrinkles in people's brains, how Metal Mechanica wants everyone to think a certain way. All of these things that made Fooly Cooly interesting because it had a fantastic way of world building, it had a fantastic way of showing characters. It was able to convey an entire character's arc in one fucking episode, and you were able to understand everything that you need to understand about this one character in one episode, and how that person relates and their relationship with Naota, and at the same time his dealings with this person and the fact that he's going through what he's going through as his own kid. All of this stuff hit home on the original Fooly Cooly, and you didn't touch on none of those bases in these new Fooly Coolies. You had a girl who wore headphones who never took them off, and apparently she kept having these weird fever dreams where she was a zombie and eating people, and apparently that was supposed to be a metaphor for her sexual discovery. I don't know why, because every time it was showing her eat somebody or eat the guy that she liked with the glasses, then she would wake up or she was blushing or whatnot. So I was like, is this supposed to be a metaphor of sexual discovery or something? If it's not, then hey, I interpreted it wrong. Either way, it was shitty. And then on the other thing, which was about a bunch of girls just kind of hanging out, and one girl was like she's moving, other girls basically moving on with their life, and the main girl just didn't really know what the fuck she wanted to do because she's a kid. And so basically the entire thing was just everyone telling her, you're still a kid, you need to think like an adult because eventually you gotta grow up. And she was just like ignoring everyone until the end, and it was like, hey, I guess you do gotta grow up because shit changes. And then it was like, what was the point of that? I didn't learn anything. I didn't sit there and get interested in these characters. She was incredibly annoying. Everyone else was incredibly annoying. Their friendship meant nothing. I got nothing from them. They had them have emotional breakdowns on each episode, but that doesn't necessarily mean that a character has progressed or has achieved anything. It's just that I'm now crying about something that I'm going through that you don't know about because this is my problems and not your problems. That don't mean shit. And if the main character doesn't care because she don't know about her friends enough to care about the things that they know about, but they're her best friends and she loves them like crazy. Then why would I care? Why would you assume that I would care? It was just bad. It was just really, really bad. So I personally think everything that they did, they tried to do in terms of reaching new audiences, which was a mistake. They decided to neglect and basically just disassociate themselves with the original Fooly Cooly, because they felt like that wouldn't be a factor that drew people into watching it. That basically, I would say, would be a miscommunication in terms of culture, because Fooly Cooly was probably created with the intention of it being Naota's growth as a kid and everything like that. But again, bad interpretation on exactly what people thought it was, what made it popular over here in America. So you can chalk that up to that. Them trying to reach the demographic of showing girls or young women growing up, dealing with how they grow up with the same story structure of Fooly Cooly, was really a roller coaster. Some points you could understand at what they were trying to grasp at, but they failed to do that because they still had to work within the wackiness of Fooly Cooly. So the seriousness of a girl trying to come to grips with the fact that her father isn't around, her mother's running a shop by herself, she don't really have any friends, but there's a guy that she likes and she's kind of coming to a sexual discovery. Again, my interpretation of the second thing of it, all of that was a miss because it landed within the confines of the weirdness of Fooly Cooly without really conveying the seriousness of the situation or the emotional impact that the girl had. On the original Fooly Cooly, they were able to do that just fine. Naota had his sullen moments where everything was just too fucking real for this kid, and then it would immediately jump into the funny. It wasn't trying too hard to be funny, it would just get funny. Like the time when his dad would call him downstairs, and you would just see him sulk in his room. He was thinking about everything that went on that day. His dad told him it's now to dinner, and he walked down the stairs. And as soon as he went into as soon as he turned the corner, and then everything looked like a manga, and it was just jokes all around, and it was going like manga pages explaining everything that happened. And that happened on the first episode and the last episode. It was a nice callback, and it was immediately hilarious again on the last episode because you remembered, oh yeah, they did that on the first episode, and it was funny. So when they did it those two times, it was able to break away from the seriousness of what was going on, but the serious situation that just had passed was the main dude thinking back to everything that just transpired that was already made apparent and clear to what was going on. He was thinking of the situation, stuff had already happened. When he sat down, then you was hit with that funny, and it was funny. While as with these things, it's like they were trying to incorporate the funny with the seriousness. As she's sitting here thinking about all the stuff that's going on, she's constantly being berated by these different people and Haruka, and then it's like, it is not funny. She's still thinking about the situation. She herself wasn't in the funny, which is what made it equally hilarious. She was just, oh, you guys are annoying me, or you're being silly. Well, I'm trying to be real. And they fucked that up. They fucked it up big time. Like that's not good. That's not good comedy. So they had a lot of hit and misses because basically the direction at which they wanted to go in with these new Fooly Cooly was not something that was apparent to the fans of the older Fooly Cooly. And the hilariousness of it is that I'm pretty sure they thought that even though the older fans might not like or appreciate anything else new that they were doing with Fooly Cooly, they would draw in a newer audience that would be able to identify and accept the new stuff of Fooly Cooly because it's more in tune to the current anime watchers and viewers and whatnot. And no, it wasn't. That was also a complete fuck up on their part. New anime fans don't care. There was nothing for them to associate with. They either didn't know Fooly Cooly, so they didn't care to look into the new Fooly Cooly. And then even if they did watch the older Fooly Cooly and then watch the newer one, like I said, it was so disassociated from the original that there was literally no point in watching the original because it had nothing to do with the following up things. So that was just a double whammy. And it was just such a giant shit show, and it was completely fucking terrible. And I've talked to people, I've seen talked to multiple people where I'll be like, hey, have you seen the new Fooly Cooly? And they're like, no, what it's about. And then I start explaining what I saw from the latest episode or whatnot, and they go, nah, I'm good. It's like, yeah, because, and I know for a fact, like, they were fans of Fooly Cooly, and then it's like, yeah, I know how you feel. There's nothing to watching this. They don't explain nothing. They don't bring up nothing. I believe Kanji shows up, the robot. I believe he shows up, but oh yeah, it's just his head at one point. But again, that's nostalgia bait, but it didn't help the story, so then it was pointless. Which is basically what you can summarize as both seasons of Fooly Cooly, the second and third. So, with that being said, I'm going to say my farewells to Fooly Cooly. I am so sorry that you did not get the continuation you deserved. By all means, in theory, it would have been so goddamn amazing if they were to continue Fooly Cooly in a manner in which it deserved. It was a fantastic anime. It was a freaking eye-opener in terms of breaking down something within 6 episodes to such a humane and deep way that a lot of anime aren't even able to cover within a span of 50 episodes or 24. You got to know and love characters that only showed up for minutes at a time on each episode. And it was fantastic. And also it had this added bonus of being played over and over and over again on Adult Swim. God damn it. Oh, that is time that will never leave. Oh, like, remember the scene when the fat cat be sitting looking out the door, and then the little black cat keeps trying to back into it, and they be showing the hearts, and like the animation and everything changed, and it was like Naota and Haruka, and then the girlfriend of Naota's older brother, and like she was outside, and all they were talking, and they just had this weird different animation change, and it just popped up out of nowhere, and no one knew why, and then they were just all talking about really a bunch of nonsensical stuff. That was Fooly Cooly. that was Fooly Cooly. The new thing just, I don't know what the hell that was. I would say you can chop that up to basically anime, the people who produce and everything in anime, just knowing what will make money, but not knowing what anime is or what fans want. They just know, hey, this will make money. Is it what fans want? I don't know. I just know I want to make money. And if you believe, like, that's not true, that you're just saying that because you're a fan of Fooly Cooly, I don't think it was that bad. I thought it was okay. The series, they know what they're doing when they're making anime. Have you seen the new Berserk? My name's Danieltheflame. This has been Fun with Flame, and I hope you all had fun.